How do you want to start this sucker off? You want to go right into oil viscosity, or you want to talk about the GM recall?
I think we're going to go ahead with the GM recall and go up with it. What we're reading on these next ones.
Are you wanting to get into like 040, 08 and all that crap?
No, the only reason why the 040 was because of that's what GM says they want to replace the oil with. I don't know what they originally called for on it, And we had
Should have been.
talked about that because, things are tighter and going to the thicker oil, but that's just what I was talking about on the oil.
I'm pretty sure it was 020, wasn't it?
I don't know. That's what I'm looking. It says the
Oh, well,
040 has a thin viscosity at low temperatures and a higher viscosity at high temperatures.
well, what is the difference between 040 and 40 weight?
Well, straight 40 weight would be 40 weight all the time. It'd be thick at cold and thick at hot. The same. Yeah, it's going to thin that thick up and whatnot. But zero means that according to them, that during the colder time, it's a zero weight. How in the thunder they do that, I don't know. But anyway.
Huh, interesting. Welcome to the Liquid Dinosaur Show. Today we're just kind of talking about whatever comes to mind. We got the GM recall. We might get into backstories. You never know where this is going to go. Please join us on the adventure. And of course, it is Doc and the automotive Ewok.
What's up?
So the GM 6.2 recall. Approximately 721,000 full-size trucks SUVs equipped with a 6.2-liter V8 gasoline engine due to potential engine failures. This recall covers 2021 to 2024. The issue is related to manufacturer defects in the connecting rod and crankshaft, which could lead to engine damage or failure.
And it covers the Cadillac Escalade, the Escalade ESV, the Chevy Silverado, the Suburban, the Tahoe, the GMC Sierra, Yukon, and Yukon XL. Anything that Chevy put that 6.2 in.
That pretty much. So what you get at here? What you finding?
Well, the crank and rod's in the manufacturing process, but nobody will really say. I'm still looking at it to see what exactly happened, but they're also saying that, assumption is that the oil viscosity is too thin for it to operate in. Because then one of their things is if they inspect it and it works out good, then they're going to change the oil filter and the oil cap. And I don't know why the oil cap, but anyway, probably because it says zero something or another other than 40 on it, and then go to 040. So I'm trying to find something.
Well, while you're looking at that, I'm trying to find into what people are talking about with the L5P Duramax, saying
Yeah.
that it's got a hydro boost issue. So I'm trying to figure out what hydro boost means and what exactly they're talking about.
Okay.
Denso HP4 injection pump. Okay, so they're using a Denso version of the Bosch CP4.
Do I know?
The L5P
Okay.
is using a
Denso
Denso
version
style.
of Denso version of the CP4.
Yeah.
Let me look. Now you got me chasing a rabbit.
Apparently, the common problems with the L5P is map sensor failure, uh, fuel injector problems. And then I heard that some of them are having issues with the timing chain, but I'm not finding anything about that. So that's interesting. I wonder why they're using a Denso HP4 injection pump. Interesting.
I don't know. It looks an awful lot just like
It's basically the same thing as a CP4. It's a different brand.
it can manifest with difficult starting, rough idling, and potential stalling.
Ooh,
The
yeah,
pump's
because
inability they arise from the pump's inability to deliver sufficient fuel pressure, leading to inconsistent combustion. What do you think? So no fuel means inconsistent combustion. Says the HP4s are considered more robust than the CP4. Misfires cause for the failures if they're old, but they're brand new. How can they be old when they're brand new?
right.
Improper maintenance, not changing your fuel filters.
But doesn't that go? That's anything common rail.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, it was interesting.
All right, back to the 6.2. You finding anything else about this crankshaft failure?
No, I went chasing another rabbit, remember?
Yeah.
All right, let me see. It said the problem was due to connecting rod and crankshaft components unspecified manufacturing defect. A series of crankshaft and conrods manufacturing improvements implemented addressed a contamination and quality issue.
Okay. So, I just looked it up on Reddit, see if anybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I think this is going to explain to you exactly what happened. You ready for this?
Yeah, give her to me.
About 30 days ago, I bought a 2023 Suburban High Country with 40,000 miles on it from a non-Chevy dealership to replace my 13 Escalade. Truck had everything I wanted and looks great. Last Sunday, the engine died on the highway, wouldn't restart. Flatbed to the local dealer and waited to hear from them. Tuesday morning, they tore into it and found spun main bearings that took out multiple cylinders. I was thinking about lemon laws at the point in getting my money back. Wednesday afternoon, they said it was covered under powertrain warranty and they were replacing the motor, radiator, oil lines due to metal shavings found throughout. They also told me that the engine is in stock. Thursday afternoon, I picked up my truck with a brand new motor and extended powertrain warranty, protecting it from an extra year and unlimited miles. Seems like a win to me. What am I missing? Other than the engine is failing. Just wanted to share my experience after reading many horror stories about people waiting months for motor parts and replacements. So if it's spun out main bearing, so either it's a flaw with the main cap or the crankshaft itself, or it could be the fact that the bolts are not holding the crank, or like or it's having the same issue that we did on the early Gen M11's ISMs, where that thrust washer would just give out, allowing the crankshaft to move back and forth.
Yeah. It didn't tell you which mains it spun, did it? Because usually the mains aren't really too selective where they're going to spin, are they? There's an issue if you say it was 7 and 8, right? There's an issue there at the block at 7 and 8, or the crank, or you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot that they're not saying on that.
Ooh. There's another guy that commented on the same post, said, I bought a GMC with a 6.2 soon after lifters went out. Had them replaced under warranty. 2 weeks later, it spun 3 rod bearings and locked up tight. Warranty again. This time the entire motor was replaced. I'm dumping this thing as soon as I get it back. Now, I think this is interesting. Guess which 3 it was, because it tells it.
Well, go ahead.
Cylinders 2, 5, and 7.
Ooh.
So that right there tells you that that's your motor flexing that you're talking about.
But then on top of that, that's got roller lifters, doesn't it?
Like,
Hydraulic. But they had lifter problems and they changed the lifter and the cam, right?
yeah, well, the 6.2 also has that stupid auto stop function with all that, what people are just replacing, getting rid of it basically, is what they're doing. They're putting different lifters in it, different trunnions and the rockers, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that didn't spin the mains, it spun the rods. My idea
One
there,
guy.
yeah, my idea on that would be how much of that crap didn't they clean out when you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Usually if you lose a lifter and stuff like that, you're pulling this sucker down and she's getting a serious bath. And anything that's even suspect.
There's another guy. 58,000 miles. It ate the valve and bent the push rod. This was a camshaft failure, but it was also a main. Okay, so this is interesting. So on the crank, it was the number. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. No, maybe. Basically, the second to last on both sides. So two and 6, or two and 5.
2 and 5. No. 2, 4, 6, 6 and 5. The Chevy is odd and even.
No, this
Left
is on the
hand, right
mains.
hand.
This is on the main cap.
True. I was trying to get the pistons and rods.
This isn't the last one. It's the one right before the end on both sides. That's what
I
this
think it's
guy
5,
said.
isn't it?
I don't know, 2 and 5.
Something like that. Oh,
I'm not.
front and back. Front and back. That's pretty much either block or a bent crank, ain't it?
It would have to be. But the fact that it took the camshaft out with it,
I'd say block, wouldn't you?
I would say it's a bent crank because that means that gear is doing this.
Well, that's true too.
Oh no. Well, this is interesting. What is lemon
Okay.
law? Let's look that up real quick.
It says if you're dealing with the issues involving the GM engines, X2 engines may experience engine problems, including stalling, warning lights, power loss, piston freezing, and knocking sounds.
Oh,
It
that
says,
explains main or rod bearing.
It says if the engine is failing, you could have misfires, ticking or knocking noises, check engine light, reduced fuel economy, of course, slow acceleration, poor performance, or oil pressure issues.
All right.
If it's failed, it'll have persistent misfires, a constant ticking, knocking, check engine light, what is the significant reduction in fuel economy? If the damn thing's dead and dying, it's not going to have fuel economy. Severe slow acceleration, performance issues, and more oil pressure. 5 potential options to fix is disable active fuel management. Clean or install a catch can for carbon buildup on your intake valve.
2 rabbit holes right off the bat. Which one do you want to go into first? You want to go into lemon law? You want to go into what I found?
Let's go into what you found.
So, Texas Speed has what they call a DOD kit, which is your auto stop function. Comes with a new camshaft, lifters, bolts, and looks like some form of... Okay. DOD hole plug 2014 plus LT1 head bolt kit, GM Delphi LS7 style lifters, TSP OE style Gen 5 6.2 or 5.3 head gasket, LT1 Stingray valve cover gasket, wet sump balancer bolt, ballast manifold gasket, cam phaser bolt, OEM style non-DOD camshaft, front crank seal, lifter trays, water pump gasket.
Huh.
It's a whopping $800.
800?
That's the DOD kit.
Yeah, because this one here says on it. Wow, this one says the complaints have rocketed to 877,000. They're rooted primarily in bearing failures and collapsed lifters.
Okay. Texas Speed has a motor, like a full-on 6.2. Well, how much money do you want to spend?
Yeah.
Let's see. Short block, $7,500.
Yeah, this one says the lady spent 30,000 just trying to get her Escalade done.
Right.
Which I wouldn't have spent that much. Would you?
For 15 grand, you can get pretty much a LT4 long block. It has Texas Speed camshaft, crankshaft, basically everything. Just doing a quick search, everything's reporting to just getting a whole new block from somebody else. Staying away from the GM block. Well, GM engine, my bad. Now, I find this interesting. So, Lemon Law provides a remedy for car buyers whose vehicles have significant defects that the manufacturer can't repair after a reasonable number of attempts, often within the warranty period. Essentially, if a new car purchased under warranty repeatedly fails to meet standards of quality and performance, the buyer can pursue a replacement or refund. So, what qualifies as a lemon? A significant defect. The car must have a defect that sustainably impairs its use, value, or safety. I would say a crankshaft and rod failure counts as significant defect.
Yeah.
Defect must occur within the warranty period. Unsuccessful repairs. The manufacturer or its authorized dealer must have been unable to fix the problem after a reasonable number of attempts. What does that mean?
This is the one, and that just is a rabbit hole I went into. I was talking about the Hemis, remember? And it says the older model years has a history of lifter and cam failures, often due to poor design involving the needle bearings in the lifters. And these are roller lifters on this. It can lead to engine ticking, misfire, and eventual expensive repairs involving cam and lifter replacement. Which is nuts, I know. Additionally, the 5.7 can experience oil consumption and sludge buildup requiring attention. And the reason why I said that it's lifter or camshaft replacement is when I worked for Chrysler, we had one come in, a Hemi, and this was the third time he'd been in for the lifter ticket. Instead of pulling all the lifters in the cam and changing the whole thing out, Chrysler's replacement was just those lifters.
Sounds about right. I know that the 5.7 Hemi had a lot of issues with the exhaust ticking too. So you'd be getting exhaust manifolds, lifters, all sorts of crap. Now, Lemon Law was a used vehicle. So used car, this is in Arizona, by the way. I can't find an overall characteristic of what covers under used lemon law. The used car lemon law offers some protection to customers, although it's not as comprehensive as new car lemon law. It provides an implied warranty of merchantability for 15 days or 500 miles, whichever one comes first. covering major components of the vehicle. If a major component breaks during this period, consumer is only responsible for the first 2 repairs, up to 25 each. If the dealer cannot fix the car after those 2 attempts, the customer can seek a refund of the purchase price. 500 miles, I do that in a day, on a busy day. So that's a bunch of crap. Yeah, that's a lot of crap, honestly.
So they're saying that some of them are saying it's 6 to 12 months before they can even get any parts for these things.
Yeah, I guess it depends on location, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess location has a big part of it, right?
Yeah. Location, location, location.
Location, location, location. So that's that. Good times.
So what question? If they're spinning rods and bearings, it don't seem like it's a lack of lubrication issue, does it?
No. Well, it could be, but it could also sounds like it's just a defective. It could be defective blocks too.
Yes. Well, that's what we've been doing this thing for.
Yeah.
Remember?
I'm curious.
Me too.
Interesting. So we're talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can rule the block out. The GM 6.2 liter V8 LS family has what they call a girdle plate, or also known as a block stiffener plate. So
Okay.
it's a crankshaft failure.
That or a line boring failure or a manufacturing failure on the block, right? When you're boring the mains.
Right.
So we still back to the same thing.
So if it's got a girdle on there and it's still going through crankshafts, you got a major issue.
Yeah.
But that could explain why if they're replacing whole blocks over a couple of rod failures or like main failures,
Yeah.
that tells you it's the block.
Yeah.
Because if it was just a crank, they're just going to replace the crank. They're not going to do a long block over that. You know that.
Yeah. But see, that's the problem sometimes is when they do this fix, they're just putting a band-aid on a, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what's the same thing with Chrysler. Rather than doing the job right, you'd put just a pair of roller lifters in there, and the problem still came back because they didn't address the fact that what had happened to the camshaft, or if any of the iron and bearing needle stuff, to find out where that stuff all went. So you put a band-aid on a butthole as a explanation.
Really?
Really?
You had to go to the butthole part, huh?
Huh?
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
I did.
Oh,
But it's weird because a lot of these 6.2s, they're saying that when they start it, the oil pressure's maybe 40 to 45, and then as it warms up, it drops down to non-existent. Yeah, there's just too many open here. They don't tell you enough.
okay. So how the hell does that work? Do oil flow like zero weight oil at vehicle temperature, blah 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 blah. I'm aware of that, but how? How does that make any sense? How can an oil be so thin at cold and then get
Exactly.
thicker when it gets? You would think it'd be the other way around.
You would.
That's okay. I get it now. It's a multi-grade oil. It's not just straight crude oil. That's why.
Yeah.
That's how they're doing it. We'll have to deep dive into that one because that's interesting. Really, anything else about the GM recall you really want to go over?
Well, there's just too much out there. Nobody's not saying a great lot of, we're not getting a little bit on the technical side. It's just like, okay, these rods and cranking, you know.
Well, they're replacing full-on long blocks, so that kind of tells you it's
Yeah,
if it's
I
got a
guess it
block
does.
if it's got a block stiffener plate in there and it's still taking out mains, cams, and rods. So we're either got like you said, either the line board's off, the block itself is trash,
Which is highly possible because block stiffener doesn't correct a bad block.
and if it's still shifting and doing all this stuff with a block stiffener, you got a block problem. Or the crank's just in there sitting there just not balanced and just doing what it wants.
And that's highly possible too. Because then that one comment was that, what was it, that the manufacturing process on the rods and crank was not up to snuff. So then why did you ship them out?
Let's see. They're a cast rod, from what I can tell.
Wow.
Everybody, it looks like everybody's wanting to go to an H-beam forged rod.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to an H-beam forged. That seems to be like the number one upgrade that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
Yep, here you go. Stock rod, not forged.
You know, with the advent of everything going forged rods and whatnot, you'd think they'd done better, don't you?
Especially because it's not a crack bridge, it's a machine bridge.
That yeah, that's another archaic design, especially when they went to fractured rods, right?
Yeah, fractured, that's what I meant. Yeah, but everybody's going, they say a lot of the performance guys are saying H-beam forged rods is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, looks like on eBay you can get coated stock rods if you want for $40.
Well, I'll tell you what, at that rate, I think I'd probably do my own.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. It's a floating pin design.
Well, that ain't necessarily bad. My race engine out here has floaters. I've raced with floaters for years.
Right? Well, this is 2025. We have better technology.
True, but I don't see that it's a big deal with the floaters.
Well, you don't think that has anything to do with what's going on with this engine?
With mine or theirs? I don't know.
Okay, so you don't think it has anything to do with the floating pin?
I wouldn't think so. If the pin come loose, you're so close anyway, on my engines, you're so close to tolerance on the wrist pins and the floating pins, and if you've got your snap rod and snap pin spring and everything in there properly, I've never had one go.
They also say that the 6.2 has higher toler oh, oh, yeah, higher tolerances.
Tighter tolerances?
Yeah, tighter tolerances.
I don't know. Mine's pretty tight. You
Okay,
know, I,
well, I guess I can't
like I
say
said,
anything. The Cummins is a floating pin.
yeah, that's just it. It's common, but you could
Oh,
have a rod that's
never
twisted.
mind, never mind. My mind went completely somewhere different with that.
Yeah.
I was thinking something completely different. Scratch that. I'm being stupid. Don't worry about it. Don't know what I was thinking, but even goes to show when you have experience, you can still be stupid. Doc's getting a laugh at, so I guess that's good.
No kid.
All right, so notice the way I read it made it seem like there's more of a floating bolt design in the for the cap.
Yeah.
I just read it wrong. But yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's going to H-beam style with studs. Other than that, like I think we're in the territory of just guessing at this point.
Yeah. I think so too.
Unfortunately, yeah, we're guessing. There's not a whole lot else we can say about it.
No, there is. Because once again, we don't have a great lot of information.
What we need to do is get our hands on a grenaded engine and tear it apart ourselves.
Well, yeah.
That could be a fun video.
Yeah, that could be.
Good luck finding one, though. I'm sure they're going to not let them out easily. I mean, there's really nothing else to really go over this thing. It's just,
Well, this is true.
so what you thinking?
I think we can put a cork in this one. And
Well, what's your conclusion? What do you think the problem is with it?
I'll tell you, just like we said, without knowing the specs, without knowing the measurements, I'm talking as a machinist here, as someone who's built a lot of racing engines and diesel engines, and the same as you, without knowing or getting my hands on it, we're just breaking wind here, and emphasis on breaking wind.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, breaking wind is fluctuating, but anyway, because we don't know what these nose picking engineers have done. Okay, I put it out there, right? We've already covered enough of this, what the engineers are doing to Cummins and etc. So without knowing that, and we're talking about a lot of engines, a lot, 876,000 or something like that. And
It
the
was
number's
just shy
probably
of
going to,
800,000, but yeah.
the numbers seem to be going up every day.
To the point where people are just dumping them.
Well, yeah, about the only thing I can say for it is job security for GM techs, but it ain't going to take long for that job security is going to, these shops are going to, or businesses are going to say, you know what, this ain't going to work. You're losing money. Your goal is to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder how much money they've lost.
Oh, have to look it up.
Of course, they're not going to tell me.
Well, look, let me take a quick gander here.
Looking up, I'm trying to see if I can get a number on how many failures the 6.7 lifters have had.
Yeah.
I just find that so interesting. Yep, there's no pin. Boom, called it.
What?
So with the 6.7 Cummins, there are multiple red flags when it comes to the design of the hydraulic lifters employed in the 2019 newer 6.7 Cummins. First and foremost, there are no needle bearings in the roller. In comparison, power stroke units do have them. Secondly, ultra tight tolerances with the roller assembly doesn't lend itself to adequate lubrication and cooling from engine oil. Along with the oil passes and bodies being undersized, additionally, thicker viscosity engine oils often fail to significant pressurize when cold. Hence, the TSB issued by Ram stating that 1540 is not to be used in 19 or newer engines. So A, it's got nothing to keep it from rotating, for one.
Yeah.
And B, they made it too tight.
Yeah, I can't get a price on the 6.2 thing debacle either.
A price?
Yeah, projected revenue loss for GM.
Let's see. All I was gonna say is the fix for the hydraulic lifter issue in the 6.7. You just go back to flat tap it.
Yeah.
We've only
No
had flat tap it for almost 100 years. It's fine. And I say almost 100 years. Cummins has been around longer than 100 years, but the 6.7 5.9 platform hasn't been around for 100 years. Not yet. When we hit 32, it will be.
So they reported a $2.7 billion loss in Q1.
How many? How much?
6.6% or 2.8 billion. Q1.
Was that this year?
The end of last year, this year.
Yeah, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. I can't get a number on how many 6.7 Cummins have failed.
That's that new one.
Yes, Cummins has recalled the 6.7 liter diesel engine used in Ram 25-3500 for emissions violation. Oh, I don't care about that. They did the high pressure fuel pump. Still think that was crap. Let's see. They have not.
Listed any of them?
No, they haven't recalled it yet. They're not. It doesn't even say they're even thinking about it.
That's a bad failure. They could take the whole engine.
Right. While there's no specific recall, owners of 2019 and 2024 6.7 Cummins engines may consider aftermarket solutions or consult with their local dealer to address lifter issues.
Well, that rocks my boat. You know why? You go and you spend that kind of money on an engine to show, well, you might have to go aftermarket to make this thing work. Well, you nose picking piece of trash.
You spend $100,000 on a truck, and then you have to go and spend an extra 10 to get it fixed correctly.
Right. Because he's decided
Nose pickers.
to do, yeah. They try to out engineer themselves. They think they got a great thing, but it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, like you said, the flat tap run for how long?
Let's see.
5.9.
We're in 25. The 672 came out in 32, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then you had the 4BT and the 6BT and then the 5.9, which your 6BT is a precursor to the 5.9.
Yeah, but H672 is what started it off, and that was 32, if I remember right. So that's 7 years from 100 years that we've had that engine.
And you decide to put rollers with no needle bearings. I don't know.
I'm telling you,
Sometimes.
let's take the 176 lift cam out of it. Let's put a 196 or a 205 lift cam in it. Let's put 1.5-inch tappets in it and leave it alone.
Well, there's that aftermarket kit you can buy for $10 bajillion to make that $100,000 truck of yours run.
Yeah.
That's just how stupid it sounds, isn't it? I mean,
Why do you
I
think
understand you building them things and whatnot, but like you said, you spent $100,000 on this truck. Then they tell you, well,
Hold
you
on.
can fix it aftermarket.
Hold on. I'm actually going to throw that one back on you. Yes, I love messing with the Cummins, but I really wanted a new one to leave it alone to have warranty.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, the idea is that, okay, you bought
I'm
this
saying I'm
truck.
just playing devil's advocate.
You bought this truck because, you're a Cummins man. They're worth their weight in gold. They used to be. I don't know about now, Anyway, now they're telling you, well, you might have to buy aftermarket parts to make this engine stay together because our nose pickers decided to reinvent the wheel. They didn't like the fact that it was round, so they decided to put some square spots on it.
See, the way I'm looking at it is, if I'm going to spend 100,000 for a new truck, yes, I know you can get them for 54, but that's not even nearly the one I'd go after. And we're trying to keep even numbers here. 100,000 for a truck that I know I'm gonna have to spend an extra 10 grand to get it to run right and be reliable.
Right.
I'd rather save the money, go get a 2018 that needs to be rebuilt, build it the way I want it. If I'm gonna get into the motor, my problem is, and we'll get into the backstory of this later, is well, if the camshaft's got to come out, the front covered all this. I'm putting a bigger cam in it. This is it. I'll put a bigger cam in it. I'm gonna go 1.5 inch tappets. I'm probably gonna go get them coated. And if I'm gonna do all that, I'm gonna stud it. I'm gonna take the head off, go get at least a head fire ring. And if I'm gonna do that, I might as well just pull the motor and just do what I want. If I'm gonna do that to a brand new truck, I'm just gonna go get an old one.
There you go. That's just the bottom line of it, you know.
Because the kicker is the moment you crack into that truck and you get rid of the hydraulic oil rifters, your warranty is now void. So your whole purpose of buying this truck is now gone.
Right.
So it's kind of like, and then that now you got this new one with glow plugs and everything. The moment they start having glow plug failures, cells are gonna they're gonna go down really bad.
It is another rabbit hole we have to go on.
But we can save that rabbit hole for a different video.
Yeah, we're going to have to, because I have to, the usual.
Usual.
Yes.
Well, we've almost been at this for an hour, so yeah, we can just cut it.
Sounds good. I got to do the usual, which is tinkle.
Close it out, Doc.
Well, this has been the Liquid Dinosaur Rant. Usually it's a good show. Now, this was a good show. We got into a lot of stuff. You know, like, comment, whatever you want. You may not like our comments. You know, we may not like your comments. But the problem is, at the end of the day, you know, this is not what you buy a car for, or buy a truck for, or buy this, that you got to spend extra money on the thing just to get it to work normal. So, you know, let us know what you think. Thank you for listening in, and we'll see you the next time.
Yeah, just like, comment, subscribe to us, and share it. Until next time, this has been Doc and the Automotive Ewok.